When Bethesda says this game took 25 years to make, it's no overstatement. This game was once a fever dream, so much so that the very idea and concept was once this. Bethesda's latest brainchild was born in the year 1998. At the time, the game was called The 10th Planet. The only reason you probably never heard of it is because it was never released. Bethesda's partner in the game's development, Centropolis Entertainment, chose to cancel the game completely. Reason being is they wanted to focus on making movies instead. This was a letdown for Bethesda, but all things happen for a reason. Around this time is when the team started to further think of the lore and the features they wanted to include in Starfield. But the realization was clear for them. Just look at it logistically. It being a space game and all is obviously a lot harder to develop than a game that is just one world in itself. And keep in mind, we're talking about the year 1998 here. So this is when they realized that what they wanted to achieve with the game wasn't physically possible yet. This realization ends with Starfield being put in their back pocket, but it never was forgotten. This is what we're going to call the pre-development years, 1998 to 2014. Developmentally, the Elder Scrolls series and the Fallout series is what laid the groundwork for Starfield. And the leader behind all of this is the current executive producer and game director at Bethesda, Todd Howard. In this period, Bethesda massively contributed to revolutionizing the gaming industry. Seemingly every title from them in these two series pushed the brink of what was possible with the tools they had at their disposal. Many other games did too, but this is their story, not theirs. This hard work and dedication is what allowed Starfield to even be possible to create. These two series here are two completely different worlds. Fallout features post-apocalyptic settings, and Elder Scrolls features fantasy settings with magic and the like. Where they share similarities is how open the world is to explore. Both series offer some of the most lifelike feelings you can experience in gaming, with seemingly endless things to explore and ways to play. That all contributed to what Starfield has to offer. Todd Howard and his team were very open about their desire to develop a space RPG game throughout 1998 to 2014. In fact, the idea and concept of Starfield and the lore within it grew during all that time, and the team continuously kept up to date on the latest technologies in game development along the way. Their focus on the game became more evident to fans in 2013 when the name Starfield was trademarked by Bethesda. Then, one day in 2015, the time had finally come for Bethesda to officially start the development of Starfield. The development phase, 2015 to 2023. In 2015, the game's development began around after Fallout 4's release. And speaking of Fallout 4, Todd Howard has been on record stating that he believes that the tech gap between Fallout 4 and Starfield is bigger than the tech gap between Morrowind and Oblivion. The aspects of the game that would allow him to be confident enough to make that statement include flying ships in outer space that are fully customizable to your liking, spaceship combat and the ability to dock on and steal spaceships in outer space. They made it also possible to steal spaceships on land, the capability to travel to a possibility of 1,000+ planets with any one of your spaceships, and the ability to create outposts on those said planets. A better focus on resource management, the ability to choose your own crewmates that all have different skills to bring to the table to help you on your journey, a much more robust character creation system, a way more in-depth background and trait system as well, the ability to use a jetpack, advanced weapon customization, more advanced real-time combat with firearms and melee combat, gravity that changes from planet to planet, and what you see in the game, such as planets, stars, and ships in the background, are all things that you can visit. Lastly, of course, enhanced graphics compared to any other previous Bethesda game. Those are the gameplay features that stand out that were new or were massively improved when compared to other Bethesda titles. Furthermore, the game is a complete jump in its story depth. Starfield was developed to have over 250,000 lines of dialogue, Skyrim is confirmed to have 60,000 lines, and Fallout 4 has 111,000. In this game, there's massive amounts of choice-driven narrative. Traits in the game add a whole nother level to the narrative, as they can affect your character's interactions and even your combat. Depending on your trait, those can have negative or positive effects. In Starfield, every player's journey is completely different. The game's possibilities in terms of its interactions, random events, and ways to play are seemingly endless. Starfield can be described as a game that is 6 games in one, and I believe you can say that confidently. That being said, Bethesda was confident enough to officially announce Starfield at E3 in 2018. Next in 2018, on October 23rd, Fallout 76 was released. After its very buggy launch, Bethesda's backs were now against the wall for Starfield. Now it needs to have a good, or maybe even a perfect launch. Otherwise, Bethesda's credibility may be lost forever. Other than that, between Fallout 76 release and 2021, the most noticeable thing that happened for Starfield was Microsoft's acquisition of Bethesda's parent company, ZeniMax, through a $7.5 billion deal. This would allow Bethesda to have way more resources monetarily to further the development of Starfield faster. This is what the game looked like in its very early stages. I'll try to go into detail about what is revolutionary about the game that they were heavily working on here. Bethesda used data from NASA and many other sources to help make the world of Starfield feel more believable. With that data, they used it as a standard to develop the 1,000 plus planets, atmospheres, and biomes. They did this primarily based on the planet's distance from the sun. Along with this, Starfield was developed to have real-time global illumination. This lights the world based upon the type of star and the makeup of the planet's atmosphere. Starfield uses a technology called procedural generation, but it's necessary to explain how it was used in Starfield specifically. Procedural generation in Starfield was used to generate what you could describe as a foundational look of every planet and city. From there, Starfield was handcrafted, and Todd Howard is on record stating that they've done more handcrafting in this game content-wise than any other game they've done before. Procedural generation was necessary to make the game as large as it is. They couldn't achieve this all by hand in this amount of time. Keep in mind though that this generation is not random. They used everything from the data of space that we previously discussed to create a seed for each planet in the game. Think of Minecraft. Your world is randomly generated in that game when you load into it. But if you pull the seed from that world, any other player can paste that seed into Minecraft and they can play it in the same exact world that you did. It's shocking how much Starfield changed through 2018 to 2021. But what's also impressive is the game's improvements from 2022 to 2023. Here's a comparison of what the game looked like at the Starfield gameplay reveal in June 2022 versus the Starfield Direct in June 2023. Keep in mind that Starfield was officially slated to release in November 2022. But it was decided to be pushed to the first half of 2023, and then eventually it was announced for September 9th of 2023. The change is noticeable. Surprisingly, this is a topic that is up for debate, but in my opinion, the game looks better, no doubt. The change isn't just in the graphics, but more so the aesthetics. All hands were on deck to make the game look smoother and be smoother. A lot of pressure was put on Bethesda's developers during this period, especially before they showed what was changed. The scope of what they were trying to achieve really hasn't been done before in gaming. And from that, of course, love and hate is bound to come. This is the evolution of Starfield, so I've got to get into this. A big talking point after the Starfield Direct was the fact that the game on the Xbox Series X and S is going to be locked at 30 frames per second. The game is very demanding, as Starfield is true next-gen gaming. But I get the anger. I mean, we're talking about next-gen consoles here, so they should be able to keep up. Anyways, this was meant to maintain consistency for Xbox gamers, which is needed, as Starfield is the first official poster boy for the Xbox Game Pass. They are going all in on Starfield to promote the service, as it is what they see as the future. A subscription-type, monthly payment service that gives you access to hundreds of different titles. Think Netflix, but for gaming. Look at it this way. The heavy focus on the development and the success of Starfield is a win-win for all gamers. If a new IP such as Starfield could prove to be a big hit, then perhaps it can inspire other developers to bring single-player gaming to a whole new era. And if that happens, just imagine what Bethesda and Microsoft would do to compete against that with new Elder Scrolls and Fallout games. One day, a long, long time from now, maybe they'll even make another Starfield. I mean, you never know.